It's another rainy day in Tennessee. If your rear view mirror fell off, I'm going to show you how to put it back up like a pro. There should be glue left over from your old button on the inside of your windshield. So from the outside of your windshield, outline that glue mark with masking tape so you know where to replace the mirror. And get your hands on the sharpest razor blade you can find, and you're going to scrape off the old glue on the inside of the windshield. I really don't want to go through this again, so I'm not using the stuff that I used last time, which comes in a package just for doing this. It's a little bit pricey, and it's not worth it. I like Gorilla Glue. It has not failed me yet. And I've put it through some tests, man. If you just went out to the car one day and your mirror was on the floorboard or on the front seat and it just fell off, there's no doubt that the button is still attached to the mirror assembly and the old glue that was on the button of the mirror has failed. There's a tiny little screw holding the button to the mirror assembly, and it's a Torx 8, T-O-R-X-8 or T8. Loosen that screw up to be able to slide that button out of the mirror assembly. And once we get the old button out, you're going to probably see indications of the old glue. We need to sand that old glue off the button, and we need to prep it to re-glue it to the inside of the windshield. And we're going to sand it with 150 grit sandpaper, and that'll scratch up the button to give the glue something to grab a hold of. As you can see in this clip, there's still a little bit of glue left on it, but I wanted to show you this, that the button's all scratched up, and that's exactly what you want. Looks good. Now we're going to mix up some monkey glue and apply it to the button. And the great thing about this Gorilla Glue is it won't dry, and you know how these get clogged up. Well, that's not going to happen because the glue is on one side and the hardener is on the other side, so it won't make that chemical reaction of glue until each comes out of this outspout here in equal parts, and you mix them together. Isn't that clever? So these screws in here are basically unnecessary. I just didn't want it to evaporate on us. Now here's a little bit of a warning. It's really easy to put these buttons on upside down. On most cars, the rounded part of the button is toward the top and the flat part of the button is at the bottom. But that's not all cars. If you have to double check and you're not quite sure, go ahead and you can apply the button back on the mirror assembly and make sure you're putting it on right before you actually put it on. Now apply the button to the proper position and keep it as straight as you can. You don't want to get glue all over the inside of the windshield. And you're going to have to keep pressure on there for a little while, maybe up to a minute or two. Because we are working with glass here, and this can slip if you let your hand up. If your arm is cramping or whatever, you can use masking tape to keep pressure on there so you don't have to sit there. But it should start setting up after somewhere around a minute. And from that point, I'm just going to let it dry overnight. I don't want to take any chances. You should let it dry for up to an hour. And that's minimum, really. If you have that luxury, you should let it go overnight. And the longer the better, because I mean the rear view mirror with the sensor and everything attached is not light, and we're dealing upside down here and at a very steep angle. So this is not the easiest job Gorilla Glue ever tackled. It's the next day and the button seems to be holding good. Now just take the mirror assembly and slide it in from the top to the bottom. And now we have to tighten up that T8 torque screw. And while we're at this view, if you have a headlight sensor on your car, that also screws into the rear view mirror assembly. And it's just a little Phillips head screw, and just take your time and don't over tighten. And of course that sensor is connected to a wire, and this one has a plastic sheathing around it, but it does bend a little bit. It'll give a little bit. And on the end of that sheathing is a tiny little clip that fits into a little slot on the rear view mirror housing right there. So just make sure everything's lined up and connect the wires, and I believe you are finished. Here it is about a week later, and it's still holding strong. Everything seems to be fine. And here it is a month later and still holding strong. So let's go to the live video here. I want to explain something. And the reason this is such a test is because, I mean, the glass is as flat and as smooth as it can get. There's no pores for the glue to seep into and grab a hold of. So if it's going to grab a hold of this glass, and this is again why I scuffed up the button for that glue to seep into and have something to grab a hold of. But on the other side it has nothing. So it's the ultimate test for glue. And yeah, I don't see any problems arising, not in the near future. So yeah, Gorilla Glue works for a rear view mirror.